gonna record this, so if you need to hop off or hop back on, you guys, I will have it uploaded to YouTube by tomorrow. But yeah, John, go ahead and introduce yourself, let folks know a little bit about you because we do have some newbies on the call.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you guys. My name is John Diel. I am, I call myself a contract specialist because I draft contracts, right? Um, I, a little bit about me, I started doing credit repair about 88, 89. So I was, the first time I did credit repair before computers and all that stuff, before the technology. So everything was done by hand. Um, so um, I did that for a few years and then I started a new family. So I wanted to have a little bit more reliable income. So I got a job with local government. So I did credit repair for, on the side kind of thing. I recently, I went during that time, I started doing contracts. So I really like doing contracts. So I want to learn more about contracts. And I decided to go back and get my undergraduate degree and then a degree in law. Like I just said, I didn't intend to practice law. I just wanted to get the education and understand things much better. So when I left that job about 6 years ago, I decided to look at credit repair. What's advanced in credit repair? What are people doing? And decide to get into Facebook groups and things like that and learn what everybody's doing. And I discovered how people struggled so much with their contracts. And since I have credit repair background and contracts, I started helping people do state specific agreements. And so that kind of, got me where I am now. So I specialize in state specific credit repair agreements as my specialty, but I draft all kinds of contracts. Doesn't matter what it is, except real estate. I don't do real estate because I feel there's better qualified people to do real estate contracts. And I've just never taken the time to really get into the meat of it. I did take, property law in college, in my graduation or graduate degree program, but it was a very complicated course and I didn't enjoy it that much. So, I decided other people can do those, but I do other ones. I do, business credit. I do consulting agreements, sales agreements. I've even done a professional gamers contract. I've represented employees and negotiated contracts for employees and stuff. So, um, but I specialize in this niche of state specific credit repair agreements. And the thing about credit repair is that the laws follow the client. So, with the exception of 12 states, there are requirements for state specific language for your state agreement and or the disclosure for the state. And then you also have CROA, right? So you'll always have a CROA disclosure and you'll always have the CROA requirements in your contract. But there's 12 states that don't have state specific language, so it's all CROA. And so you can use one agreement for those 12 states. They don't have licensing or bonding requirements, except for Kentucky now requires $10,000 bond. So that's just a little bit about me and what I do, and I'm happy to answer questions and things like that instead of just talking, because I'm sure
Yeah.
you guys have questions and there's stuff you'd probably like to know. So
Yeah, so before we open it up for questions, I know me and you connected the other day, and it's so timely if people are kind of keeping their ear to the streets, the credit streets, I should say. And I know we was kind of talking just about this new service that you have, this
oh yeah,
type of contract when it comes, in relating to disputing and stuff. So like I wasn't even aware, but it may not necessarily be legally required, but like how we was having a conversation, just so that folks are aware, because I know a lot of CROs are getting pitched that option, like, hey, like you're leaving money on the table, do this, do that, do that, but just making sure that they're covering themselves if they do decide to add that on as like another service for their clients, if you want to
sure.
to
Yeah,
that.
so one of the contracts I offer, I call it a compliance review and promise to pay agreement. It's the one I posted a couple of weeks ago about in CreditCon. So as Tanika said, there's a lot of credit repair organizations that refer their clients to an attorney when they recognize there's a potential claim. And either they don't take those types of claims themselves and represent the client in like arbitration or something like that, and they feel it's something an attorney should handle. Technically, you can't get paid just by referring to the attorney. Attorneys generally aren't allowed to pay for referrals. So the client will get paid if the attorney takes that case and gets an award or a settlement. But this agreement, the compliance review promise to pay agreement that I draft, is an agreement between you and your client. You've identified a potential claim, so it gives you the authority, the permission from your client to turn that over to an attorney to review. And then if the attorney is successful in getting an award or a settlement, then your client agrees in that agreement to pay you a percentage of whatever that award or settlement is. You know, and most CROs are between 20 and 50% is what they ask. And it's a fully enforceable agreement. It's separate from your credit repair agreement because you want to keep them separate for different reasons. But if you end up having to go to arbitration, because I put an arbitration clause in it for a dispute resolution, unless you want to go to court, we can put, that you can sue your client or your client can sue you in court. But I think you prefer to stay out of the courtroom, stay off the public record.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to keep that separate because you don't want your credit repair agreement to be under scrutiny when you're just dealing with a dispute between your client about paying you for that purpose. So
Now, can I chime in because
yeah.
I always have my ear to the credit streets. Now, let's just say a CRO is outsourcing, for example, right? Because it had been brought to my attention that um, outsourcing companies are, outsourcing and they are feeding another company's clients to an attorney, and then the outsourcing company is getting a check, right? And not the actual CRO. I'm being told that some CROs don't even know that their outsourcing person or company is getting these funds. So how would a contract like work in this case to protect them and would you recommend like maybe it need to be another legal agreement between a CRO and an outsourcing company, like for to be able to legally disclose that, or how would you recommend it?
So my recommendation is if you're using outsourcing and that is a potential issue, that you make sure you resolve that in the contract you have with outsourcing. I'm assuming you have a contract with the outsourcer. I would assume you don't just turn over a bunch of private information of your clients, that because you're turning over access to your client's information that's
I
private,
will
that's
hope
PII,
so. I will
right?
hope
Yeah.
so, but you would be surprised. I haven't seen an outsourcing contract. I haven't heard of that. Someone said in the chat an NDA disclosure. I don't know, is an NDA disclosure that wouldn't make the outsourcing company legally liable
So
to pay you though.
So the NDA is just a non-disclosure agreement, which means that you cannot disclose your arrangement between you and the other party, or what your business, anything about your business. But that's just an NDA. That's not going to protect your client's PII, right? And so if something happens, if there's a breach of that, um, just if there's a breach of the outsourcer's data that your client information is in, then that opens you up to liability if you don't have protection by having an agreement with your outsourcer. So that's a major, major problem if your client's information is breached. So I would suggest that you have an agreement between you and your outsourcer that protects your client's PII, but it also addresses that other question Tanika asked about: are they referring your clients to an attorney and not telling you? I mean, that's kind of, they're your clients, not their clients. You are their client, not their client. Your clients are not their clients. They're just the outsourcer, right?
Yeah,
So
someone,
read the contract and see what it says. What's that?
oh, I'm sorry. Someone
That's
asked,
right.
I was getting ready. I don't know either. We're not attorneys, or Former law students. What's PII?
Sure, sure.
What's the acronym stand for? PII.
Personal identifiable information.
I thought so. I couldn't think of the third I. I said personal info. Wait, what is the other I?
Yeah,
Personal identifying information. Got it.
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So the other form you would probably want is a data protection agreement. We call it a
And it's funny
DPA
that
for
you're bringing
short.
that up too, because
Yeah.
that just happened to another CRO. I saw floating around where their client's information was. Um, it probably wasn't intentional, but accidentally leaked out, right? So yeah,
Yeah, and
that's
the thing
that's a,
is, Tanika, is that it doesn't matter if it was intentional or not intentional.
yeah,
If your client's PII gets breached, they don't care if it was intentional or unintentional, right? The
sure.
law is the law is the law, and you are potentially liable if you don't have an agreement that protects you and your client's PII if it gets breached. So it's very, very important to make sure if you have an outsourcer that you have an agreement that protects you and your clients. It's very important. You should have a contract, a services contract with them, and identify if they're referring your clients to an attorney that's something you should have control over. And then also a data processing agreement that protects the data, which is your client's PII.
That's a good point. You just brought that up because if they're referring your client to an attorney and that company doesn't know, that's a data breach in itself, right?
It's a privacy issue, I
Yeah.
think, for sure. Yeah.
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 It should clearly, explicitly say in that agreement that they're allowed to do that because
Mhm.
it's your client. All they're supposed to do is process the disputes, right? I mean, that's what you hire them for. You don't hire them to farm out your client to somebody unless you agree with them that that's what you want them to do. And some people would be fine with that maybe, but it should be disclosed and it should be in the agreement. It should not be an assumption that somebody does. I just don't think that's ethical either, you know?
Right. So
Yeah.
in addition to the not just the permission to be able to share, coming up with some form of payment structure with the outsourcing company and with the client, right? To make sure that they're
Yeah.
getting paid, so
Yeah.
that Daryl is getting paid.
Yeah. What did Shar say here? I see Shar
Um,
said you can't be sending someone's client to an attorney without permission. Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Um,
you got to think about it so a contract, a lot of people, I mean, I actually had a client tell me, convince me I need a contract. It's just a piece of paper with a bunch of words on it. And I said, well, I mean, yeah, they're kind of boring sometimes, but it's for your protection and to protect your clients, right? That's what you do it for. And you do it because it's the law, right? I mean, let's admit it is a legal requirement. But aside from that, we know there are a lot of CROs that don't have them. And, that's a business decision that I would hope that they'd make the decision to protect themselves and their client, because I think it's very important. You're dealing with their potentially, some software you put their entire social security number in there, and I don't think you should ever have their entire social security number, but you do have their name and their date of birth. You have their credit reports, you know. So you want to make sure that you're protected if something happens. You want them to be protected, and then you want to have some dispute resolution process. And there's other terms in the agreement that aren't in the statutes, because when you're reading a credit repair statute, they're not going to go into all of the other requirements that you need to put in your agreement for you know general terms. But there is one term in there that you should pay attention to, both CROA and state laws. It says that you cannot put a claim for damages clause that protects you from any liability, uh, or you're going to make your contract void. You can't say under this agreement the client can't go after me if something happens, for any reason. If you do that, that's illegal, and your contract is null and void. But you can have a clause in there that protects you if your client gets sued by a creditor. You can do that because you're not the one that you know racked up the um, charge and went into, default and all that. So that's the nature of doing credit repair, right? And so you have to educate your client about that.
And then I'll just have probably one more question, then I'll open it up. What I was gonna say, can you also just speak to, I'll get your opinion on, because the number one question I always a lot of people just ask is like, can you share your agreement? Can you share your agreement? And I just operate in my state, right? So it's like I be having conversations with folks just about like, I mean, I could, but it wouldn't apply to you. Like,
Right.
and I don't think a lot of people just really kind of understand that, for the folks who want to be compliant, like you said, it's still an option and a choice that, particularly if they're taking clients nationwide. Um, I know you said it's 10 or 12 states that could use one agreement, but
Yes.
I don't know, you would know if someone wanted to operate nationwide in every state and maybe including Georgia. I don't know how many contracts is that off the top of your head, and like what's your thought about? Because I always recommend, like I know the CRMs come with a sample contract, but the contract that comes with the CRM is not compliant. Um, and like you said, it doesn't have those different protections and
Right.
different clauses. Even something that I feel like folks care about, even if you don't care about CROA, all of that. You care about chargebacks.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
gotta make sure, like that's one thing you'll get with us with my credit card. We care about chargebacks now. So even
Yes.
something as simple as having a bank authorization form and a sales type agreement. So any event, if you do get a chargeback, you can win your chargebacks, right? So like that type of stuff. Like
Right. It's part of protecting yourself. Right. So I don't recommend sharing your agreements because if you're in California, a Texas agreement's not going to help you, right? Because Texas is different than California, and Florida is different than California. Washington is different than California. So all of those state requirement, the states that have state specific language, you need to have a separate agreement for those clients because the law follows the client, right? So if you have a client in Florida, you need a Florida state specific agreement and disclosure. It's not going to be the same as one in Texas or California or Florida. So it won't be compliant, in other words. The other thing that you said about template agreements, okay, they're templates, okay. Templates are not complete agreements, they're not enforceable agreements, and they will not have state specific language in them. So I do not recommend that. Um, I do have clients that come to me after, they've started 5 or 6 years ago and they're like, I should probably have my agreement reviewed because I'll also review an agreement. If you have an agreement and you want it reviewed for compliance, make sure it's complete. I will review it. Um, and a lot of times I get an agreement that they thought was an agreement and it was a template. So it had nothing in there that was enforceable. It was a template. And luckily, they came to me before, they had an issue and had to enforce the agreement, which they would not have been able to enforce. Um, so, it's very important to make sure if you are using software that just uses a template agreement, make sure that you're, you know, getting all the other information in there to make sure that you have a complete state specific agreement that's totally enforceable, and make sure that there's a term is called miscellaneous provisions. Okay. Miscellaneous provisions is usually typically at the end, at the conclusion of the agreement. And it's going to talk about, modification of the agreement. Is modification allowed? If it is, under what circumstances can a contract be modified? What's the jurisdiction, right? States what the jurisdiction of the agreement is. Talks about severability, right? So severability covers if there's something in the contract that at some point in time a judge decides you can no longer use this terminology in agreement. What the severability clause does is protects you from losing your entire contract. It'll say if at some point a judge says this language is illegal, or at some point Congress passes a law and says you can no longer do this. It's kind of like for a good example would be a non-compete clause, right? In Washington State, they can't use non-compete clauses for people in employment contracts for anybody that's making less than $100,000 a year. So that would be illegal language in the contract. But if they had a severability clause, the contract would still be enforceable, but that language would not be valid. It would just, in essence, you just ignore it because it's no longer valid. But the rest of the contract would be enforceable. But if you
Mm.
didn't have a severability clause, your whole contract is now null and void.
If
So,
it has one
so
thing in there that messes up.
yeah, yeah. So there's other terminal or terms in your that you should have in your agreement that you're not going to know about by researching, credit repair laws, because it's general terms and conditions that should be in your agreement. So, and you guys are credit repair experts. I'm sure some of you are probably really good at contracts, and some probably don't want to have anything to do with contracts. And I took the time to go to school and learn about them, so that's why I know these things, right? I don't expect everybody else to know. So,
Yeah, but you're right. Like it's just one of those things that if we want it done right, it's a business expense. People just have to like kind of budget in for it. But I will say I know a couple of attorneys in this industry, and I'll let you get to that at the end if you want to. But from what I know, your prices are reasonable to draft contracts, and I know you do discounts too, and I think you do buy now and pay later as well, right? I think you had told me that. Um, did anyone have any questions for John? Like personal, like questions? I mean, not like too personal, but but anything you're comfortable with sharing, like maybe it's something in your business that you have a specific question about.
I
Maybe,
do. I do.
yes, sure, it.
You know, I do. No, I honestly, Tanika, I just wanted to say, John he's amazing. I have had him do my contracts for many years. Not only has he done partnership agreements, he's done my client agreements, he's done my attorney agreements for my clients in my office. He has like everything. Every time I need John, he's there, and he is so reasonable and fair. I know attorneys that charge $750 an hour for what John will do for a minimal $200, $300, $400 fee for a contract. So investing into your office, this is one of the biggest investments you can make, and it is into your office. It should be one of the biggest priorities you have, is to make sure your contracts are solid for your clients, and make sure that they're state specific. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
thank you, Shar. Yes. So when I started this, like I said, about 6 years ago, my understanding was there were attorneys, or maybe there still are attorneys that do this. They charge about $3,500 is the cheapest that I was aware of, and I don't charge anywhere near that much. So, and if you hire an attorney, it's not offensive to me if you want to hire an attorney to do it. I've redone many contracts that have been done by attorneys. So unless they understand the state specific part of it, you're going to get a good contract, but it's not going to be a state specific contract. So you got to just be careful about that. So
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I always learn everything I talk to you. Um, Did anyone else have anything? Because you know what I always like to ask you, because even
yeah,
though it's less of an issue now, you don't really hear too many people talk about it. But just to kill time, and because it's going to do playback, and you are the compliance guy, what are your thoughts on TSR? I say look, girl, the new
TSR.
yeah, TSR. I'm going to say that. What's the travel agent people at the airport? Because that's on my mind, because like, I have to get ready to fly, and I'm trying
Yeah,
to
yeah.
think like, do I need to do TSA pre-check because the lines are so long? But yeah, TSR. What's your thoughts on that?
So I would say that you want to make sure that you're set up to deal with TSR if you have clients that are out of state. So if you're in California and you have clients that are in Texas, you want to make sure your infrastructure and your business is set up for that, right? And so the general rule of thumb, and this is not all encompassing, and again, I'm not an attorney, so I don't give legal advice, is that one, you don't put your phone number on your website. So you're not talking on the phone to someone that's intrastate, which means they're in another state, because you don't want to induce someone into an agreement over the phone if they're an interstate client.
Now, can I chime in with this? Because every time I talk to somebody different, I get different answers. So I did hear what you said, right? About there was some like TSR doesn't apply, and if you're not taking clients out of state. Then I've talked to other people who was like, it doesn't matter. Um, I think
Well,
when I was saying it was like because the internet is on the end, it was some rationale they gave, and I was just like, I guess
well,
that makes
there are some rules in the TSR that apply when you're talking about advertising and sales for credit repair, right? But I'm
because you
just talking
talk to
about,
somebody on the phone.
right.
They're
That's a whole different thing, right? So the main thing you want to understand is out of state clients for purposes of inducing them into a contract, right? Now the other part is, it's similar to what CROA, as far as advertising, not making promises and things like that. But I would recommend you read the TSR as it applies to credit repair organizations, because um, you know it is something that they've been going after very large organizations, enforcing the TSR, and whether they'll use it against smaller organizations, I don't know. But you want to make sure that your if you intend to take out of state clients, I think that you should make sure that your infrastructure is in place in your business, so that you can sign up clients electronically, right? Get them to sign an agreement before you talk to them over the phone if they're out of state.
another question, and I was going to save this because I was going to have you come back to do another question, but I mean
Yeah.
another call, but it's on my head now. So, let's just say someone is starting out in one state. What would be your recommendation as far as like when it comes to like scaling, as far as like um to be
So if
able
you
to
want to do other
scale to be
states,
reasonable, yeah, but still being compliant. Do like would you recommend, like, for example, like you know doing everything at one time or just picking certain states, like what would be like your recommendation, like to have people like gradually scale and
yeah, I
while
think the best way to do it is to identify which states that you feel that you're going to have the most potential to grow in, and start, with one or two of those states, um, and make sure again that you have that infrastructure, whether it's a total system where they sign up, and sign an agreement before they talk to you over the phone, or you have somebody in that state that works for you or with you, that can take calls in state and talk to their clients and stuff, and be the your customer service person or whoever you know deals directly with the potential client and induces them into an agreement. So you set something up in that state. Um, it's when you're expanding to other states, there's potential licensing and bonding requirements, right? In California, you have $100,000 bond, and you also have a substantial application that you have to fill out and turn in, which includes your bond information, your agreement, your disclosures, your advertising examples, your phone service, how it's set up, your security protocols to protect your client's information. I mean, there's all kinds of things on the application. Ohio is very similar to that. They also have a similar application process. So identifying, what's required to work in that state, and how much the bonds are and things like that, and making sure that, you have the resources in order to do that.
that's true. So basically scale as you grow, basically.
Sure.
Did
I got a
anyone
question.
else have any questions? Yes, go ahead, please.
So it's not about like a client relationship, but as far as since you study contracts, I'm curious to get your opinion. I've been looking into debt collectors as far as like the contracts with debt collectors and like American jurisdiction and how it can be like the contract hold up in court.
So give me an example of what, more specifically. So a debt collector that's out of the state or out of the country?
No. Still in your state, but just suing you on original creditor. So as far as like contractual law and how the agreement would stick um for a consumer to be locked in with a debt collector if there's no agreement, and then the four parts of a contractual agreement. I don't know if you do. I'm just asking because you said you do contractual law or studied
Right.
it. So I wanted to know what was your point on that. Um,
So you're talking about a contract, an original contract with a consumer, like a credit card agreement, right?
correct.
Right.
Yes.
And then what is the impact on that if somebody buys the debt? So a
Correct.
collection agency has it, right?
Correct. So
Okay.
now what is the standing on that?
Well, I mean, every state, there's different rules in different states, and you have to make sure, first of all, that the collection agency is licensed in the state before they, can even do the process, go after the client. What's the statute of limitations? All kinds of different things, but the the way that the debt system works can get pretty complicated. But also, it's I've seen things where people say, well, if there's a collection agency and they can't produce the contract and all of a sudden, I mean, there's so many different things that have to take place that you know you, you just have to be aware of the. It's like a when you're looking at a product that's made, right? And a product goes through the whole market chain from where it's made to where it's sold, right? And everything in between, right? So you've got to be able to find a way to, you know, connect the dots, right? Connect the original creditor and client to the current collection agency, right?
Correct.
So what's the trying to remember the terminology for it, but it's escaped from me right now. But somebody help me out here. It's like a chain of custody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're focusing. Anyone else? Any other questions for June? I know I'm the speak facts person. I know a question that I get asked now. Um, I haven't never tried to do it because I don't take people out of state. As of right now, I don't have a motivation to do it. Like I'm in a really big state. I have my fellow Marylander on a call too. Actually two, because April is also from Baltimore. So shout out my people, my credit cousins. But
Hey girl, hey.
we have to have a meetup one day with all my local cousins. But what I was gonna say is I got ADHD, y'all. What I was going to say is, oh, a question I get asked when it comes to automating this, right? So I know a lot of people always ask, like, because I know this brief files came out with like the we call it the the TSR link, right?
Yeah.
But that can be, it works for me because I just got one agreement, right? And even though we can have multiple agreements, it can be a little bit tricky if you have people, particularly if you're using the link the way they intended as it is right now, right? It can get really tricky if trying to automate that because as of right now, there's no way to automate. Say if someone is coming through your link or they coming through the SpeedFox web form, there's no way to automate. Okay, this person is coming from Texas. Let's then have the system send them the Texas addendum or you know what I mean? It's no way to like automate that, right? So for like my clients, I still help them, but I'm like, hey, when it gets to this part, you still, as of right now, will have to manually push that state specific addendum to them, right? It's no way to automate that. So if you guys are watching this on a playback, maybe that's something that we can recommend to the Dispute Fox team. Like, hey, that way we can automate this so that when they coming in from a different state, the system will know to like, hey, send them this or send them that. It's no way to, as of right now, right? unless you're doing it some other way, like a doc. I mean, I don't even know, but it may be some type of way, like you're linking the dispute facts to something else, but not within the system. It's no way to do it right now, so that kind of sucks.
I'm
Um,
glad you mentioned that because that actually was on my list to ask you about if they had did something like that because I always just move real quick and go in and hurry up and change it.
I know, right? Because it's like, but here's the thing too. Even if, for what I like, say someone signs up over the weekend, right, and you're not in the office, even if they complete their onboarding, you could still go through on Monday and still push that part to them, and it'll still show up in their portal for them to go and sign it. Especially if they have the client app. The client app is super easy. But yeah, you will have to go and like push it, yeah, push it through, push it in for them to sign it. But yeah, they really do listen to feedback. And I know right now I feel like a parent just keep promising us. It's like a deadbeat daddy right now. We supposed to be getting the Fox 2.0 for the longest time. So I know it's going to come up with a lot of features and more automations. And believe it or not, like Derek is really big on compliance. He don't want no problems. So um he makes things. That's why when before the longest time, people used to always ask like, "Oh, I don't like the Sprue Fox because I can't charge the client." Well, we ain't supposed to be charging the clients up front anyway. That's why you can't do it. Like, so they make you have to go in and have to like manually push it through yourself, like if that's what you want to do. You know what I mean? So their workaround for that was to come up with this self sign up link. So to like kind of have a middle ground so where people can actually come in, they could do their own credit audit, do their onboarding, select their own package, and then they could pay, after the cooling period, right? So, but yeah, you're not the only one asked that. A couple of people asked me that, and it's the same answer for everybody.
Yeah.
Uh,
April, did you see Char's comment in the chat there? The term was assignment of claims.
Diamond of claims.
Yeah. So a collection debt, a
Yeah, I
collection
was
agency
talking
takes it
more
over.
on like on original agreement, I think.
Mhm.
I knew the
Well,
assignment of
the
claims in
original,
the
so
back,
if
and it's
the,
talking about like
so
is the original contract breached because at the end, like even if a debt collector sues you, and I've been studying and got a lot more to
yeah,
studying to do, but American jurisdiction on contractual agreement or for agreement to be valid, you need two people. So if you're saying that I owe this debt collector, how are you able to connect that me owing LVNV? Yes, the original creditor came from that, but me owing LVNV, and where's like the contractual agreement for that part?
right.
It's a
Can
little bit
So
deeper,
you
yeah.
sign a credit card agreement, right? And it
Uh-huh.
went into, went in collection. They sold the debt to that debt collector, and the
Right.
debt collector signed, assignment of claims. So now they own that claim under the original agreement.
Mm-hmm.
The original agreement goes with the claim in most cases, right? So you go to the original agreement to
Okay.
determine how, what your what your dispute resolution processes are. That's how you find if you can go into arbitration, if they have an arbitration
Correct.
clause.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
in the original agreement.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't say that if they don't have a dispute resolution clause, doesn't mean you can't ask them to go into arbitration, because just because it doesn't say arbitration, you can always ask for it, right? And so, I mean, I would not, if you're doing that kind of stuff, I would not hesitate to ask because it's a lot cheaper and it's a lot quicker to get into arbitration. But a lot of them do have arbitration clauses. So, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah.
So one of the things would be to, I don't do arbitration. Someone just said what I do in the chat, which is mental too. Um, to that effect, and obviously just making sure, you get in their agreement and read it to see if it's an arbitration clause in there.
Yeah, I do draft arbitration agreements for your client, if you do arbitrations for your client. But that's why I created this other agreement that we originally talked about, is
Mhm.
for those CSOs or CROs that have no intention of doing arbitrations, have no intention of getting into litigation on behalf of their client, and they want to just identify potential violations and turn them over to an attorney. They're doing the work, they should get paid for it, right? Because the attorney is going to get paid, but the attorney is not going to be throwing money your way, right? So make sure that you have an agreement with your client so that if there is a case, you can turn it over. And if they do take it, then you can get compensated for the time and the work that you put into it.
Period. So I had someone mention that remember because I met you at CreditCon. That's how I met John at CreditCon, the 2024 one. I
Or,
didn't
yeah,
go.
that's when I
That's
was there. Yep.
2025. Yeah, I think because I didn't want to go. I think I only want to go when it's in Vegas. Is that
Yes,
like
exactly. Me too.
it used to go? That was my first time in Vegas. So yeah. But yeah, so I met John in Vegas, but what I was going to say, you made me laugh thinking about Vegas because it's gonna be in Vegas. It's gonna be in Vegas this year, and I don't know if I'm going to go this year only because I'm literally gonna be in Vegas 2 weeks prior because I'm taking my mom to see Bruno Mars.
Oh, wow.
So he's gonna be in Vegas too, and I was like, but my word is to the street that Derek is thinking about bringing the Spew Fox there. So he hasn't said anything to me yet. But if he comes and he's like, "Hey, I need you to come out there," I'm like, "Yeah, then I'll be there." Because how could you
Yeah.
say no to James Bond, right? But
Yeah.
but yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. But I know that's kind of where I met you at, and we just kind of like kept in, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a great time down there. I was able to, do one of the breakout rooms and talk about contracts, and that was
Hmm.
fun. That was fun. I'd like to do that again. I don't know if I'll make it this year or not, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of competing events. I'll just leave it at that.
yeah.
That's in
Yeah.
close proximity.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
So if
so
we want to
Can't
get
go to
a,
everything.
oh, sorry, if we want to get
That's
an
okay.
agreement with you, do we just reach out, or how should you be
Oh,
contacted?
do you have
here,
your
I'll
email,
put my
John? You can
email
drop it in the
address.
chat. Yep. I was gonna say put your email, your Facebook profile link or whatever. And he's in the group too, guys. He's in the Speed Fox. He's in every credit repair group because he is he's like the industry. He's everybody's attorney for the most part, right? So if it's a credit repair group, most likely John is in it. Like, and you can reach out. I'm not sure who is.
Do you do car rental contracts?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Would you happen to do, I know you said you do a little bit other than credit repair. Do you do any car rental business
I
contracts?
have not done a car rental agreement, but I've actually last week or a week before that, somebody else asked me about that. If I could do a credit or a car rental agreement. There's no reason why I couldn't.
Okay.
I've never done one though, but it's, I've done home rental and home lease agreements. So, I mean, I'm sure I could do a car rental agreement.
Yeah, they can pretty much do anything, any type of agreement. But I think my key takeaway from this call is make sure you have, and I don't know, because I don't have an outsourcing company. And did Shaw hop off? I think she did.
Shar does, I
So
think.
she's still on here. Like
Yeah.
Shaw, 'cause I know Shaw has an outsourcing company, right? Like, do you have your people sign a client agreement?
I do. I do. And it was done. No offense, John. I came into it with my partner, and it was a contract done by an
I'm
attorney.
never talking to you again,
And
Shar.
oh my God, I'm your biggest fan. John for president. John Diel for president. No, but we do, and we have the data breach information, and we have all that, and we do encourage our CROs to put something in their contract that says that they could be using a third party, and it just helps everybody understand that there might be somebody else besides an office staff processing their files. So we do encourage that with our CROs that we outsource for.
Yeah, that's a
That's a
good
good point.
point.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, but at the
Yeah,
same time, that's a good point to
yeah,
let them know that you're outsourcing.
right. You should have a clause in your agreement that talks about, third party,
Mhm.
having access to your client's information, because, if you're sharing their information, they need to know.
Mhm.
They need to know that, and they need to sign something. They call it open and notoriously agreeing to
Mhm.
what the terms of the agreement are. Now, if your client doesn't read the agreement, that's on them,
Right. And
because
they
if they
sign.
sign it,
Mhm.
it's assumed that they read it and understood it. So,
Mhm.
make sure
Yeah,
you
so
have the terms in there.
I don't outsource yet. Um, I be trying to hire these kids. I'm so glad summer break come, but I be ready to fire them, y'all. This new generation. But anyway, I do have a lot of my people come from like real estate and like professionals. So I do have what you call it? What's the term, John? You the contract attorney to share permission with the what is it called? The share permission with the realtor, whatever. Because in my
Um,
automations,
Affiliate agreement.
yeah, like
yeah,
affiliate sharing agreement.
affiliate. Yeah, yeah,
Cause I have it where, cause I be telling on my people, I don't have time if their card fail, they about to get terminated. When they doing stuff, they, cause it's almost like a free helper, right? So like when not like the first time their card failed, but like after the sixth, seventh, eighth time,
yeah,
their affiliate will get notified, like, hey, your person is, on the verge of being discharged, or I also have my professional affiliates copied in, and I know I'm dropping gems on this call, but you can do that. You guys can do this too. You can copy in the affiliates so that when you pull the monthly progress report, they will get a copy. That cuts down on the, hey, what's going on with my person? Hey, what's going on with my person? Damn, you getting the emails too. Like, stop texting me. You know
it's a
what I'm
good
saying? So
idea.
I
Yeah,
put them in there. Also the credit audit, but mainly the billing stuff. They will reach out because it's kind of helping them hold the people accountable. I have that. Another thing I have is and I should probably have John look this stuff over, y'all, because I just be Googling. When I made that up, I also made a client sharing results agreement. Is that legal, John? I don't know if it's legal or not. But the Speak Fox gave us this tool where we could like share their results and it has like their initials on it or whatever. And I was like, oh, this is nice. But when we got that, like before I started using it, I was like, I have something where they have to like sign saying like, hey, we have permission to kind of share
yes,
your results. But obviously it won't be like their full name, but like their initials, whatever the case may
yeah,
be. I added that in there too before I started posting it, using that template on social media.
yeah. So you want them to agree for to you sharing anything about them, right? Like their progress, their scores, or whatever. And then also, it's good to have a clause in the agreement that talks about posting. You're going to post on social media, right? So I can, by signing this agreement, you agree that I can post on social media, your, whatever, right?
Please, y'all, for the love of Christ, only put professional affiliates in the CRM, even if you're not sharing. I have seen people put, Tyrone, Jason. Who are these people? Oh, I ran a special and they sent me people. I'm like, no, this is not what this is for. You know what I mean? I'm like, and I don't think people realize that unless you going into the settings, guys, and turning things on and off, those people that you're attaching them to, they can see all their business. Like they could probably see their billing, their credit score history, their credit report. Like you got to turn that off. So I only put professionals in there. If other people are referring people in, they don't need to get tracked for that. You can just go ahead and pay them out. Like I don't pay my professional affiliates. It's what I'm paying you for. This is a mutual exchange. Like you're sending me somebody, I'm getting a couple dollars for a couple of months, but you're getting a sale.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a mutual exchange. Like what I'm
yeah.
paying you for it. But when it comes to regular people, in my opinion, I don't put non-professionals in my affiliates in Dispute Fox. It's just too risky. Like I don't do that.
No, that's good
You
advice.
have that tool for the referring. People can put that name in there. I know you showed me that before.
Yeah, so as of right now, I'm the only one that has like an affiliate link, but I'll let y'all know right now that thing do not work. I just was showing somebody else the dashboard. I had it for like over a year. It don't work. They're working on it, y'all. So, but I still tell people like if you are referring people out to Dispute Facts to still put, it is a spot that says refer by. Still have people put your name down. When I had a conversation, it was like a year ago. I said, hey, like at some point when you guys do offer this, would you guys be able to go back and see like who referred who? He told me yes. So still have people do that. Still have people do that. But as of like it's not working. And I can tell you right now, if I'm just being honest, getting affiliate links for that. You mean affiliate links for the Fox CRM to refer people?
No, I was just talking about you showed me in the in the web form if you put the referred by, like you can always check their who they were where they came from in their web form.
Oh yeah, that too. In the web phone, I thought you were talking about the Spree Fox web or the Spree Fox referral thing. Because someone asked me that too. So as of right now, the Spree Fox don't have a referral link, but people can put referral by. If you're talking about our internal stuff, yes, you could do that. But I personally, when I had professional affiliates sign up, I literally just had a call with someone the other day. I do like it's a Zoom. I walk them through their portal and I show them how to pull their links themselves. Because if they texting somebody a link, then they automatically get attached to them, right? And then I know if I see them come in via an affiliate, then I know that person needs to get the affiliate sharing agreement, right? So I have permission to share out with their folks. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it's all in there. It's when you going into and but so when you see it, when you going into um if you guys go into so you to copy people in um the Dispute Fox default email for your affiliates, if you're going to settings, go to your settings tab, and then it's the email SMS Zapier, I believe. Zapier, oh my God, sorry, my people coming through the roof. Email SMS Zapier. That's where you will find all the email templates that the Spook Fox gives you, right? So in there, if you go to the email and you click like the to from, that's who you can see who you can all CC. So you can CC the affiliates, you can CC a Gmail account that's not in there. You can CC a whole bunch of different people, right? That's how you do that. All right. For the email templates. If it's something like billing and stuff, if you want to, then same thing, just go to the email and CC the button that says affiliates. And then when that card fails, the affiliate will get it. That's all it is. Right. But to John's point, if you all want to start sharing stuff, just making sure that you get permission, guys. All right. Any other questions? I know we're a little bit over time and I want to respect people's time. I see folks are dropping off. Anybody else that get a chance to come off the mic?
Yeah, if anybody has questions afterwards, just email me. I'm happy to answer any questions, or you can message me on, Facebook Messenger or whatever. Always happy to answer questions.
Well, thank you, John. I loved it.
Sure.
I will probably have you back again, probably
Okay.
in my school community and to get some folks in there. But thank you. I appreciate you as always. Hopping on calls with us. If you guys are watching this on the playback, I do group calls every Tuesday at every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as my time permits. So twice.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you having me. I enjoy talking about anything contracts. So always happy to get on a call and answer questions.
love it. All right, John. Thanks so much. I will see
Thank
you
you.
guys around, and I'll connect with you guys soon.
Have a good night.
All right. Good night, guys.
Bye.
Bye.